So I am an appointment coordinator here in our office. I've been an employee of Marshfield Clinic for the last 7 years. In March of 2021, I began having symptoms of arm fatigue, where my arms felt like very heavy. As the months progressed, it affected my core muscles and my leg muscles. By August, it affected my throat and the muscles around my lungs. So I was in full crisis mode in August of 2021.
In the thick of all of this stuff that she had going on, there was times when she couldn't swallow, there were times when she couldn't breathe in the office, and when she was here, at one point I looked right at her and I said, if you don't leave right now and go to the ER, I'm not sure you're going to be here, because she could not keep her airway open herself.
It was a very scary, dark time. For 5 months, people looking at you saying, I don't know what's happening to you, but we're gonna find out. But it was scary, going through something that people just didn't know much about.
Dermatomyositis is a disease of the muscle and skin. In medical terms, it's an inflammatory myopathy with a characteristic constellation of skin findings. Now that's a mouthful. In patient-friendly terms, it's widespread inflammation throughout the body that primarily affects the muscle in the form of weakness and the skin in the form of rash. However, the rash can look very different between two patients.
As Toni was getting weaker and sicker, we would cover for various things. We made sure that she had the parking spot that was closest to the door. We made certain that during the winter that we went out and we got her from the car, and we would essentially carry all of her stuff in. We would take care of getting her son to and from school if we needed to. Toni would do anything for us.
We were eating lunch together one day, and I took a couple bites and I said, I have to be done. And she just looked at me and said, I'm so sorry, I don't know what's wrong with you. And I said, nobody does, so don't worry. And she said, but I'm gonna dig to the bottom of this. And Jill is a very, once she's got something in her head, she's gonna figure it out. She's gonna find the people that will figure it out. So she was one of my biggest supporters, for sure.
I think another reason why it's hard to diagnose is that there's not one test that can tell us this is dermatomyositis. We have to rely on the clinical judgment of who's evaluating the patient. There are some blood tests that we can check that help, certain antibody profiling can help with dermatomyositis. Muscle biopsies can be very helpful. And then rarely skin biopsies can help kind of guide us to that diagnosis as well. But there's lots of tests that we can kind of shoot for. Not all of them are diagnostic. And so it really does take an astute clinician to kind of come up with a diagnosis.
And I just needed reassurance from my providers that, hey, we're gonna get ahead of this. And they definitely made me feel more secure once we found out what it was and how to treat it.
She's the one that kept going. She kept going to the appointments. She kept taking on the agenda to make sure that she got to the appointments, she got the treatments, she went on to everything that she needed to do. She didn't stop, and she could have along the way.
I had to rely on my faith to get me through a lot of the doubts, the questions, the whys and why is this happening. And I believe turning it into a positive role. Right away after I was diagnosed, I had to do something with it. And knowing that I could change somebody's life, you don't have to go through this alone. There are support groups, there are things out there to support you. And being in the right headspace is key. Absolutely have to stay positive.
But most patients will be able to get back to their job, get back to doing the things that they love to do once treatment is initiated for them. But most patients do excellent once we get them on the right treatment course.
I feel like she has found her voice, and I think she has part of a calling to speak about this and speak about rare diseases, so basically other people know that these things exist so they can be tested for them.
I've had opportunities to meet with senators, staffers, and I went to Washington, D.C., and had meetings on Capitol Hill to ask the FDA questions and to sign on to bills and to ask for change in a higher level to bring awareness for people with rare diseases. But I feel like I have a lot of life to live, and I'm going to make the most of it now that I've got this time.